actually, I love picking apart the English language. You
Mhm.
have big, small, good, bad, heavy, light, things like that. I love the one easy and hard.
Mhm.
People look at what they're doing and it's like, oh, that's going to be really hard. Well, maybe, maybe not. Or what if you just turn it around and say, well, I'm going to accomplish this goal with ease rather than saying it's going to be easy or hard? Because what's hard to me might not be hard to you. This is
Yes.
easy. This is easy for us to get on the microphone and record a
Yeah.
podcast. This is natural for you
Mhm.
and I to do
Mhm.
that. We would deem that easy, but somebody listening to this might go, "Fuck, that's hard." Like, who would like
For
that?
sure.
There's a lot of work there. Mm,
You're not better or worst. You're not bigger, smaller. You're just you.
yeah,
If you start with you're just enough,
yeah,
then
yeah,
everything sort of you start living your life at ease,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I've been pondering that too.
I don't know what type of feed you have on social media, but I assume your feed is full of like life coach because you have personal coach finder, you have your
Sure,
website, that's what you do. So most likely it is what it is, right? You have life coaches doing
sure.
content and all that. And there's one thing that to go in the same direction than you, I feel that we are in a culture that overvalue hard work. The harder you grind, life needs to be hard. You're not enough. Wake up earlier, take a cold plunge, go to the gym, write a book, start a business, start a podcast. Go. You're not enough. Go to bed. Rah! And
I
and
did all that.
sometimes sometimes I'm like, but I tried that. I really I did that for a bit, like waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. going
Yeah,
like to
I
run
did too.
half marathon. I did that, but it's not me. Like
Right.
what if I like to wake up at 8? Uh, what
Right.
if there is
Yeah.
some human beings they're just not made to have this sort of hard lifestyle and always be better and
Mm.
better and
Well,
it's linked to what you were saying about you feel you're not enough, you feel you're small, you feel you're
yeah.
smaller than your coach, and that's the dark side of coaching. There's a lot of bad coach out there that of course uh, it comes from a good place, from good intention, always it's
Sure.
always to help, but they have they take advantage of this relationship that they're better than their client, and they have everything to gain to maintain this
Yeah.
sort of level, because that's how they make money, because
Yeah,
if
sure.
if you surpass the master, then you don't pay the master anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's a whole industry that is worth billions, that is based on something. Then when you think about it with just a little bit of perspective, it's quite toxic.
Yeah, the dark side of coaching is very interesting. It's a very interesting perspective. So tell me what you think about this. The good coaches are the ones that they coach their client where the client no longer needs the coach. That's how you know
Yes.
you have an amazing coach, where
Yes.
their goal is to get you to a place where you are okay. Like, not okay, I hate to use the word okay, it sounds like you're going to get fixed in the first place, but the reason you hire a coach is because there's something that
Yeah, there's
you
something
need to work
to it.
on, right? So that coach gets you to a point where you're going to be able to realize that all that you have is inside of you. And it goes back to what you were saying, where, the cold plunges and getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning and not feeling like that's your authentic self. How many of us look at what's the examples of others and say, "Oh, well, they achieved that, so I have to do what they're doing in order to achieve that thing. So the cold plunge is going to get me to achieve that thing." Like you're saying, there's this disconnect between what's outside and what's inside. And it's not the cold plunge that's going to give you the fame. It's not, like
Might get you some
there's no
views.
kid.
Now it's super trendy. It's
Yeah,
very
what
trendy. Hey, don't get me wrong, I really love
yeah.
cold plunge.
Yeah, I do
I'm a
too,
fan,
and there's a science
but
behind it.
of
There's a
course,
science behind it that
absolutely.
does it, that
But
supports that this is a great thing to do, but that's not
there's
going to get you the fame and fortune.
no, for sure, for sure,
Right.
for sure. And we always, and on social media, we're bombarded with people that are prettier than us, richer than us, more in shape than us, that train harder than us, and it's great, right? But to a certain extent, there's a lot of coach out there, like, to go back to the cold
Yeah,
plunge thing, right? Do you really need to take videos of to make videos of yourself going in a cold plunge every single day to prove to yourself and everyone that you do
right.
cold plunge, for example? And nothing against your discipline, but I value the people that grind in the dark. They grind and they don't yell about it, they don't scream about it. Today I ran a half marathon, 21 kilometers before our interview.
Yeah,
I didn't feel the need to post that. Like,
right.
why? That's what I do. I'm a runner and I run an heavy mileage per week, you know.
Yeah,
But I don't constantly feel the need to
yeah.
broadcast this and say, hey, look at that, look at that, look at how strong I am. And and worse, I could like start selling programs that say, if you want to be strong and tough like me, click the link below, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole dark side to the coaching industry. Unfortunately, sometimes I witness stuff. I'm lucky enough with my clients because they're all they have a really high level of integrity and they're the real deal. I don't work with anyone, but sometimes we have people on the podcast that you're like, you're shady, like the way they do their pricing, they go on like a year long retainer,
Mm,
things like that. And if you break the contract, like, you need to pay the balance and things like that.
wow.
And you're like, no, 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 no. Tinder, what's one of the tagline? Like, I think Tinder has a tagline, which is, I think, something that goes along the line, the only app that is made to be deleted. Well, a good coach should say exactly the same thing.
Oh
A
my
good
gosh,
coach
yeah.
is a coach that you fire.
Yeah, right, you don't need
That at some
more.
by fire at
Yeah.
some
So let's
point that you say, hey, I have enough, and the coach should be okay and aiming at that. That should be the topic
yeah.
of the first coaching session should be, okay, now we need to find a way of you getting rid of me as a life coach.
Let's go back to what are some of specific let's go back to specific things that you see in coaching.
The specific
Example.
things that I see that are toxic.
Yes.
The pricing, the pricing, the way they set up their pricing, and the way they set up their contract with their client, you can see that they're there for the long term. So
Mm,
therefore, they're not there to fix or to fix anything or to work on the client. They're just there to lock in a client for as long
mm.
as they can, right? That's
What's
the
too
first.
long? What do you consider too
Oh
long,
my
though?
god, I don't know, Sue. I don't
Because
know.
you know
It
what?
depends of anyone. It depends. It depends. It's just that I feel, okay, from experience. I would say I don't want to go on what is too long and not long enough. All right,
Right,
but
okay.
let's call it that 3 months retainer healthy to me.
Yes,
Two
that's what I
three
was gonna
months.
say.
Because one month it starts to be really short.
Yeah, no,
two
no, no,
months,
that's what I was
two
gonna
three
say.
months, and then you reevaluate. Maybe you do 3 months on, 3 months off,
Yes.
right? That
Yeah.
that's to me, it's more healthy, right?
Yeah. No, 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 that's what I
Um,
was gonna say, just for a context or perspective. Because when I hired my coach, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in, not enough time, 4 weeks, not enough time.
I
After
know.
12 weeks, you're able to evaluate whether or not it's like, "Okay, are we okay to be where we are, or can we continue longer?" But that 12 weeks seems to be a good length of time where you get to know each other, but then the coach also develops a plan to get you off of coaching or to continue and to go into the next phase. I mean,
Yeah,
my
and you have time to hit some walls.
right.
If you let's say
It's
you're
true.
contacting a coach because you have an addiction problem, whatever, right? Super easy to fake that for a month or two. It's very
Sure.
easy to wake up early and do a cold plunge every morning. Ooh, I'm not smoking, I'm not drinking, I'm not watching porn, I'm not buying whatever.
Yeah.
Very easy. But when the third month kicks in, when you start like having challenges in your life, the IRS start investigating you, or you're getting a
Yeah.
you're breaking up with your boyfriend, girlfriend, getting a divorce, so
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
month you don't have the time to experience those bumps on the road.
Sure, and you don't have time to experience the mechanisms, those safety nets to put
Yeah,
in place so
yeah,
that when life does get hard, and life will get hard, you have that, protocol, you have an idea on how you can deal with it, and some people have more deep-seated problems, issues, things that
yeah.
they have to, work through that 1 month is not going to fix it. 2
I know
months
for
is
sure.
not going to fix it. I mean, in my own experience, 3 months didn't fix it. I mean, my
uh,
coach, I went and hired for 3 rounds, 3 consecutive 12-week rounds, and
yeah,
finally got to the point where I was like, "Okay, now
yeah,
now we're
yeah,
now
yeah,
we're good." And he always said, "The purpose of coaching is so that you don't need me anymore." And,
yeah, for sure.
the other thing that I find very fascinating is that the coach chooses the client just as much as the client chooses the coach. And I
Oh,
think that's really, really important
for sure.
because there's so much advertising commercialism out there that I'm the perfect coach for you.
Mm,
You might not be my perfect
no,
coach, you
no.
know?
For anyone listening to this podcast, like you're aware that Sue has a website, personal coachfinder.com, right?
Correct.
And
Mhm.
it's a platform that aims at connecting coach with clients, right?
Correct.
So if you're listening to this podcast and you're considering hiring a coach, take a look at your gut feeling. Of course, you need to make sure the coach is qualified, and the coach maybe have a certain backstory or a certain approach that makes sense, right? But at the end of the day, it's your gut feeling towards who you're going to work with on yourself.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we don't listen to our gut feeling too often. And marketing, branding is based on gut feeling. So be careful, because there's some life coach out there that work like folks like me that develop a certain branding around them to trigger the right gut feeling for the people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you need to be careful, because there are some marketers that are not necessarily honest, right? And there's some coach that invest maybe way too much money in their branding and marketing to play with this gut feeling thing.
Yeah.
Because when you're with your phone and you start binge watching short videos, and there's a video of a life coach say, "Hey, you, listen to me. Are you struggling with alcohol? You feel intimate. You feel you're connected with the
Yeah.
coach. You feel you're on a one-on-one. You almost have the feeling that this reel that have been seen by thousands and hundreds of thousands of people was made for you." And it start to play with your mind, it
Mhm.
start to play with your gut feeling. But at the end of the day, what is the most important thing is your gut feeling towards a coach. And it's something that I really want to extend the advice to any sort of therapist. Don't go to a physician because he has a lot of diploma and he comes from Harvard
Right.
necessarily. I'm sure he's good. But if you don't trust the guy, you don't trust the guy. Maybe you're better off on the other side of the street where it's a younger doctor, I don't know, or a younger physician that just started, but there's something. There is a gut feeling that you're like, I trust you.
Yeah.
I trust you because we're supported by a deeper intelligence. There's a deeper intelligence. There's a deeper energetic intelligence. And if you don't trust that gut feeling, regardless of the therapy you're doing, is not going to work. If you start doing chemo and you don't believe in chemo, it will never
Yeah.
work.
It's not gonna do it for you. Let's
And it applies to everything.
Yeah, let's go back to this idea of your gut feeling. And, I think a lot of us have become disconnected to that voice that's
Mm,
inside. And when you become disconnected to that, then it clouds your judgment. When you go looking for, and let's tie it back to coaching, it's going to cloud your judgment when you go back to look for a coach. I mean, I can take my own experience where the way I found my coach, I researched him. 'Cause
Yes.
here I am going to trust my most intimate details of my life. I mean, you are going to be sharing with somebody if you really want your coach to be super effective for you, number 1, like you said, you have to trust them. Number 2, you have to open up to some dark places that are in your life that, you might not share with other people. I mean, my coach knows stuff about me that nobody else on this planet knows.
Hmm.
But the reason I got there was because I actually researched who he was. He has a podcast. I listened to the podcast. He knows other people. I reached out to those people. I actually did the work behind the scenes. And how
Hmm.
much of us get enamored by what you were talking about, the intimacy of the 30-second reel. I
Yes.
can fix your problems for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Do they have credibility? Have they actually walked through that? Do you resonate with their story? Think
Yeah.
about what their story is.
Yeah.
Austin's story resonated with me. Even though I didn't have a drug and alcohol addiction and he beat that, there were other demons in my closet that were just as deep.
Mm.
So he and I could resonate, and I knew that he had something in order for him to get to where he was in life, he had something in order to help me. So I think
Yeah.
the point is that if you are considering a coach, find out who they are. What I like about my site, and I don't know if you know this, Mark, but all the coaches that are on my site either have been on my podcast or will be on my podcast or have been on other people's podcasts. And I think that's really important that if you want to know who you're hiring, go listen to how they show up when somebody's having a conversation with them like
Yes.
this.
Yes, that's the beauty of podcasting. That's why I'm a
Sure.
podcast producer, because I really like this fairly new format, which is a long conversation. We're not used to that. We're used to radio show. We're used to heavy edited. Everything is cut and with music and sound effect and blah blah blah. And when you do television, I did a little bit of television. And when you, for example, if you're invited on a TV show for interview, when I used to work for Cirque du Soleil, I did a few, and even here in Spain on Spanish TV, you have the producer coming to you before, and they're like, okay, we're going to talk about that and talk about that, and be careful to not talk too much about that because our coach is blah, blah, blah. Here's a question. What are you going to answer? Here's the second question. What are you going to answer? No, don't answer that. Answer something else, blah, 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 blah. And then boom, record. So, hi. And everything looked very improvised, but nothing is improvised.
Yeah.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. The person that is getting the interview knows the question ahead of time. That's why they come so prepared with stats, and they know everything, and you never
Yeah.
feel they're caught off guard type of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in podcasting, you cannot really cheat, because if you go, for example, on Austin Linne's podcast, you have access to thousands of hours of Austin saying, if he's lying, you're going to see it right away. If he's not consistent in his speech, you're going to see it right away. You have access to everything, you know. And
Yeah.
same thing also for the people that, they raise capital, and that's the way they position themselves as expert in their industry and all that. If you want to link with a potential business partner, well, sit down for 2 hours to record a podcast. You'll
Yeah.
see a lot of things. On the 30-second phone call, there's nothing, but a
Yeah.
long form conversation, there's energy flowing. You can see, like, how do you feel when you talk to that person? How do that's.
Yeah. How do you show up? It's hard to maintain a high level of inauthenticity.
Mm.
So I was thinking while you were talking about the TV, how the producer comes and this is the question, this is how we want you to answer, this is what we want you to say. In your experience, did that remove authenticity when you already know what you're going to say versus a
No,
podcast
remove
where you
spontaneity. Spontaneity, how do you pronounce it? Spontaneous?
yeah,
Spontaneity?
spontaneity.
Oh, that's a tongue twister. What? Spont
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity?
Hey, dude, you speak
All
3
right.
languages. I barely speak 1, so oh,
No, no,
4,
no, no, no. 5.
5.
Yes.
Congrats, that's
Yes,
impressive.
yes, yes. So sometime I mispronounce some words. You definitely miss the spontaneous side of things,
Yes.
for sure. Authenticity, not really, because you're still you, but
Ah,
it's not as spontaneous as it could be. Like, when the person asks you a curveball and you need to think, and definitely,
yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
it's another
So
world.
So if we think about coaching then, what's something practical we could leave people with who's listening to this and they're like, "Oh, well, I was thinking about hiring a coach, but now that there's this dark side of coaching, maybe I'm not going to go hire a coach now."
How about
What can we leave it with so that we don't scare them off?
you let the coach come to you? What do I mean by that? I don't mean how about you let the coach DM you. That's not what I mean. How about you just live your life at ease? How about you accept that you have something that you would like to work on? How about you start to cope with that? Observe, someone will show up. Something will trigger your attention. You will have someone, a friend of a friend, that work with someone that boom boom, and
Mhm.
then you will have a John Smith in front of you that you're like, we are supported by a greater intelligence. Life is giving us those opportunities. So that's what I would say. I would say once you recognize that you need help, let the coach come to you. I hired recently a therapist, but she's a psychologist and also a life coach, wonderful here in Spain. Never worked with a life coach before in my entire existence, ever. And you know how we started working together? I met her in the street. I was exactly thinking, yeah, I think I'm gonna hire a coach, and boom, she appeared.
Appeared out of nowhere. Awesome.
Bang! No, she came out of a shop. She came out of
Yeah,
the shop, and I was like, "Hey, Marta, I'm hiring you. Like, when are you available? Like, I want to work with you. That's it."
awesome.
I had my answer. So
Yeah,
let the
yeah.
coach come to you.
Let the coach come to you because you put your intention out there into the universe.
Yes,
I
exactly.
would add and follow that up with, if you're not quite sure, take out a piece of paper and write down what you want in your perfect coach
That's a
and
good idea.
manifest that.
Manifest it. That's a
Manifest it.
really,
Write down, I want a female coach who
yeah.
went through the same thing I went through, and they've been doing it for 10 years,
Yeah.
and I found them on a podcast. Just, like, get as specific as you wanna be, but write it down, and when you do that, it starts I did that. I mean, I
Yeah.
s it took me 5
That's a
months
good
to find.
idea.
I mean, it took me 5 months to find my coach.
I, I,
Y
it's a good idea. I'm glad I didn't do it, and that's maybe a little joke to end the
well
to end the
well,
episode. You're gonna
I
laugh.
didn't write it down either, Mark,
Oh, you
okay?
did
I
not.
didn't
Okay,
no, I
cool.
did not write it down, but I interviewed lots of coaches.
Yeah,
I went from
yeah,
coach to coach to coach to coach. I think
yeah,
I went through, like, 4 coaches before I
yeah,
found Austin, and then I found Austin by accident,
yeah.
you know?
You see.
So
So
but by the time I got to Austin, I knew what I was looking for and what I wanted and what I didn't want, so
it,
because my
yeah,
life co yeah, 'cause my life coach is a
there's
male.
something about life coach. They're great, and there's a
There
lot.
is.
There's a lot that plays on this. Again,
Sure.
there is a lot. I don't want to. I don't want to name. I don't want to backstab anyone. I don't know the person personally, but there's like a life coach, super famous, that dress very like eccentric, and you can see he's playing on that. You can feel he's playing on his charm, and he's beautiful, and he's a little flirty, and people bite. They
Yeah.
bite. They bite. They
Well,
bite.
I
And
think
but
it's
you,
out of desperation. Think about
probably,
it, Mark. Somebody who's looking
probably,
for a life coach, there's something going on in life, and you want more. And if you really don't know what it is that you want, there's that quiet desperation within you that will grasp at anything.
yeah,
So if somebody's very slick at marketing, you might fall and bite for it. So I think that would
absolutely,
we can end that on a caveat. Just, be very specific, know what you want, but hold
yeah.
it loosely so that when it
Yes,
appears,
exactly.
you know that that's it. And then the flip side is also get in tune with your inner self and see what your gut is telling you and
Absolutely.
go with that feeling.
Wonderful, Sue. Wonderful way of ending this episode.
Mark, thank you for this conversation about coaching. I've really enjoyed it. You've given us a lot to think about. So I
Yes.
just want to encourage everybody to check out personalcoachfinder.com, follow your gut, and write down that perfect coach that you're looking for and manifest that.
Absolutely. And let the coach come to you.